follow our choreography with Dancing with the Stars. We were like, now you go over on that side because we're filming. Because at SRC, I ran out all excited and I stood on the wrong side that she said, don't stand on that side because you're too big and you block me. So I blocked her the whole time. So come forward so you can be seen.
I am here.
Does anyone notice her?
She just perfectly kept standing right where I was, and I was like, okay, I don't know.
She changed her clothes. Did anyone notice that? That's the color of money. It's a mindset. We're about to make a lot of money, guys. Here we go. So
I will add, I know we're supposed to do our training on leadership, transformational leadership, but I will add that 5-day drop, because I had a baby. She's almost 8 months old. And I just have to add this little plug for you guys. This was my 7th pregnancy, 6th baby that I had, and I was the sickest I had ever been through that whole pregnancy. So no working out for 9 months, and then for like 3 months after that, so a whole year, no working out. And I started working out about 4 months ago, almost 4 months ago, and literally am back in all my pre-pregnancy stuff with the 5-day drop, and taking some great aminos, which will now be Modair's Sculpt. So that's exciting. So get ready for that sculpt. It is so good.
Yeah, speaking of being sculpted, so our topic today is redefining leadership. And we all need an anchor point to remember how far you've come. And so this is a epic little photo that I've saved of myself. This was actually about 2 weeks before I met the first business that I started into, and that's my oldest daughter. I was drinking a Bud Light in the pool in Scottsdale, where my parents had a house at the time. But really, it just embodies everything about my mindset at that time. My body was getting IT consultant fluffy. My mindset was pretty average. I was in water, and I just tell people that I was kind of on the path to just be a giant floater through life. I was going to be just doing enough to have pretty good. And, so I always like to remember that moment, and I like to share with people because, that was 22 years ago, and I feel like I almost look at that guy and I'm just like, man, thank you someone interrupted my life. Thank you someone challenged me to be the best version of myself. And so I always like to just bring that up to just give people hope that, you can just turn on a dime and start to move in that right direction. You can look back and be like, wow, look how far I've come. And so I hope weekends like this and times like conversations can just help you redefine the leadership and where you're going in your life. So Bethany has some great things to share along that as well.
Yeah, I think as we're talking about leadership, it starts with your mindset. I mean, I'm thinking about this beautiful panel that was up here, and Shemri comes to my mind where she was saying I was self-conscious of not wanting to have parts of my body show. And then at the end, if you caught it, she goes, I hope it did show. Well, the fact is, it actually didn't. I mean, flawless. But the beauty is that she had such confidence that she even said, can you tell that I'm glowing? Because that is confidence. And so I want to take you to a spot for each and every one of us.
Come on up, let them see you.
All right. I want to take you guys to really do some work on what real leadership is. Leadership is not going from floater Wayne, which reminded me of a turd. Did anyone else think of a poop turd floating in the... Maybe it's because we have so many little kids. It's poop all the time.
Hey, it's a real thing.
So don't be a turd, okay? Don't be a floater. You want to actually get out of the toilet, all right? Back on track. So it's mindset. And I want to take you back to something that really established, somehow, I know it was how my parents raised me. They always spoke confidence and belief in me, but I also know that some of us are naturally, innately born with more of a positive outlook on life. Some of that can be what you're born into, but some of it is also our character and our personality. But I do believe that we can all turn this around. And I'm going to give you a book right now that you need to write down if you need help with this. It's called Command Your Morning by Cindy Trim. I kid you not, if you have negative thoughts or you wake up wondering, how do I turn my mindset around? This woman is going to punch you in the face with power and empower you to speak life about yourself. She is strong and bold and beautiful, and you're gonna feel strength inside of you for every single day. So, Command Your Morning by Cindy Trim with 2 N's. And how fitting is that, Trim?
She's on YouTube too, so you can just plug it in and listen to her talk and you'll just memorize it. It's amazing.
So with Commanding Your Morning, once you check out this book, you can kind of see who I was as a little kid. I just naturally had this like little innately piece inside of me where Bethany's commanding her morning. Like I just knew who I was confident. I was just a natural leader, not leading by, oh, here's 20 kids, let me tell you all what to do. I was a natural leader in being confident in who I was. And I didn't look to define myself by what other people were doing or what they thought of me or didn't think of me. I knew who I was. That is what true leadership is. When you know who you are glowing. And that glow is attractive. That's what Shemri was talking about. So because I was like growing up that way, it actually really wasn't until high school. In high school, I was challenged with a question one time where I was asked, what's your greatest fear? And I remember thinking, I don't have any fears. And that seems kind of rare. It's very rare for people to go, I'm not afraid of anything. But I grew up climbing trees, jumping off things. I'm not afraid to get dirty and, all that kind of stuff. I'm like, I don't have any fears. But they asked again because they were sure everybody has a fear. And as I really thought, what is my greatest fear? Instantly, I thought failure. Failure is my greatest fear. And there was a sad but good part in this because I realized I actually now gave placeholder to failure in my life. I had never done that before, but now that somebody challenged me of, what is it? You have to have something. And they didn't know what they were doing. They just thought, everybody has this. But now I gave a placeholder to failure. And I thought, now I define myself against failure. If I fail, I'm a loser. I don't want to fail. And so in that moment, I realized, this goes to Wayne's training last night, if I don't feel like I'm excelling at something, I'm just not going to do it. Mm-hmm. That reminds you of the professional quitter, right? So there in my life, in high school, I gave a placeholder to, if I don't excel, I'll stop. I don't need to do it because then I never failed. Well, that is failure. There's a Proverbs that says, and I'm going to rearrange it a little bit, but it's 24:16. And it basically says, those of the average mind, when calamity, when chaos, when struggle is going to appear, they're going to stumble and they're going to stay down. Well, that's what I gave placeholder to. Oh, I'm not going to do it if I don't excel. And then there's the other kind of person, we'll call this the upright person. And upright is somebody who chooses to step into confidence, not be judged by others, know who they are, and not judge others. They're humble, they're, strong, and really confident is the word. They're a leader. It says they can fall 7 times and they rise again. That is the kind of person that I want to be. That's the kind of person that we should all be. So to get to my point of defining the fear of failure, I think if we all looked at what our fears were, where we are hitting a wall, somewhere it's tied to failure. Well, that person's going to think that I'm weird. Oh, if I don't do this, then my team's not going to follow me. Oh, it's all judgmental of something else. And the fact is, if you choose this mindset, I may fall 7 times, but I rise up again, you never fail. You only move forward. It reminds me of how Brian said, I chose to start with what I could. He didn't fail. He didn't have to lift weights right away. He started with what he could, and in the transformation of 12 weeks, he's lifting weights in the end. Nobody told him you must lift those weights. He wanted to because he took one step at a time. So I want you guys to think, what is it that I'm hitting a wall against? And instead of telling yourself every time I fall, I'm a failure, tell yourself every time I may stumble, I move closer. I move forward. I actually learn lessons. So everything is a lesson that we can learn.
Yeah, and I think that's we're going to talk about the heart of leadership, but again, we have to lead ourselves first, right? We have to understand, usually our biggest fear in life is on the other side of that, or the true story of that is the biggest opportunity, because actually one of my greatest fears was to come speak in front of people. And to think now that I do this all the time and the impact that it has, but there was a fear that was like wanted to lock up my voice and not speak, because I had this fear that I would complicate things for people. So if I started talking, I would confuse people. And it was just one little root that happened to me when I was in college, that my professor said to me, hey, that you're really funny, but don't ever do that in business. Like, you got to stick to the business. Don't be funny in your presentations, because that's confusing people. You're making them laugh about stuff, but you need to tell them about this business project, not make them laugh. And so from that point forward, until I got into this business, I realized, like, if I start being my true self and have humor and be funny and, make fun of myself or what, I'm just going to confuse people and lose people. Instead, I realized that actually being your authentic self, being my true self, and actually explaining things in that way actually would unlock people and help people simplify. So I think it's a healthy thing is to ask yourself, like, okay, what is my biggest fear? But, for us, we always just go to God and we say, hey, God, what's the truth about that fear, though? Like, what do you really want me to know about that? And then we can step into the breakthrough for it and step into the next level from that. But, the heart of leadership, I think if you're around us enough, like, leadership is never about you, right? It's always about the other people. We're always, to develop a team and a leader and great coaches, they're always looking at the team and they're trying to identify and build relationship with them to be like, hey, what do you want? How can we accomplish the mission together and really start to work as a team? The other thing is, we see this with kids. There's a great quote is, rules without relationship always equals rebellion. So those of us that are raising teenagers, if we throw a lot of rules at a teenager and we have zero relationship, guaranteed rebellion. Same thing, there's in John Maxwell, he talks about the 5 levels of leadership. And, a lot of people struggle in this business because they come in and they may come from a hierarchy background where they're like, hey, you're getting paid, I tell you what to do, you do that or you don't have a job. But if you act like that we're working with a volunteer army, right? We're working with people that they don't have to be here. They get to be here, and we're going to help them unlock things. But if we start to throw a bunch of rules and we're like, hey, I'm the leader, I make more money than you, look at my big rank that has all these weird letters by it that mean nothing to you because you're new, like all of that stuff. And so for us, Bethany, like I would say, like she's the greatest at seeing people. Like she sees people's like true selves, a true spirit, like nobody's business. And for me, I just am kind of like a point A to point B guy, so I kind of like get antsy, and she'll be talking to someone, and I'm just like, let's just go, and like, let's get to the goal. And she's like, hold on, I really want to know this person's heart. I'm reading their heart right now, and I'm just like, what does that even mean? Like, they need money, let's go, right? And so for us, we're just like, I always say that I'm the brick stacker, because I can stack bricks of business and just go, and then she's the relational glue. She's the mortar. So here's the thing, at the heart of leadership, if you're just a stacker and a crusher and you're just doing stuff, but you always feel like someone's coming over and knocking the wall down, it's really because you're not putting any relational glue into your team. And so there has to be the balance. And that's what I love about all the teams and the community we have is you start to identify people that are like, man, those are the relational glue people. Man, we need a lot of them. This is the really empathetic people on our team. These are the drivers, but we can't have the drivers be sitting in the room with all the empathetic people that need love and relationship because they just steamroll them, right? And so being a great leader, you start to identify the talent on your team and you start to put them in the right places. And the last thing I'll say on this, there's another great book. If you just, I'm always trying to just understand and what do I need to do to get Wayne out of the way to unlock these people? Like unbind people's thoughts, their habits. Like how can I help these people grow and create the greatest environment for them to win? And so at the end of the day, I always look at our team as the NFL teams, they have their practice bubbles. And I want to create an environment in our team where we have this perfect environment for success. And people are on the outside, they say, hey, if you come into our environment, here's the expectations. We're gonna win. We're gonna do these things. This is how we're gonna think. This is how we're gonna operate. But in that environment, there's a great book by Gallup, and it's based on Strength Finders. Have you ever heard of Strength Finders? So there's a different little twist on it that they wrote a book, and it was all about what followers want based on strengths. And so they pulled all these people, all these employees, and it says, what are the top 4 things that followers want in their leaders? And so you're like, okay, they've done this study with hundreds of thousands of people. That sounds good. And then they've identified what are the top 4 things that leaders need to do for their followers. I was like, okay, if I'm not doing these things, hello, I need to get better at this. So you can grab the book, and I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version just so we can keep moving through this. But the number one thing they need is stability. So as a leader, we have to be someone that is stable emotionally, consistently. That's why you see a track record of the people that are leading is they just consistently do stuff, but they're emotionally stable too. They're a safe place, like a lighthouse, where like how many people we have, like Bethany's our HR director, I tell people, because she's the deep HR person that provides stability for people to like walk through things, not just how to get a customer, but how to think differently. And then the other thing is trust. You know, followers want to be able to trust the person. And again, it goes back to being emotionally stable. You're not going to be trustworthy if you're all over the place and then you're gone for 3 days, you don't respond and you don't show up on things, or every time there's a Zoom, you have to be texted to get on, right? So you build trust. The other thing is vision. You know, being able to paint a vision constantly for your team. So, hey guys, here's where we're going. This is the team. This is what we're building. Here's where we want to be before November. Here's where we want to be at the end of the year. This is how many ranks we want to advance. Continue to paint vision. And then the last thing is being, you know, someone that has compassion. And again, that was the one that I was the weakest at, because I was always just kind of hard on myself, because my parents just were in a mindset of like, just tough it up, buddy, suck it up, buddy. Just, you know, so compassion was always a hard one for me. I was just like, why are you crying? Like, get over that. Like, just move forward. I don't care. Punch yourself in the face and wake up. You know? So like, my first couple years in the business, I went through a lot of people because I was like, why are you so weak? Like, you're weak. Like, just go. And some people, they were like, I have other things like to work through. And I was just like, huh? I don't even understand. So it was like, it took a maturity to actually raise my compassion meter, my empathy meter. So those 4 things, stability, trust, vision, and compassion, that's what followers want. So as a leader, if you're not providing those things, you know, that's something you can absolutely work on.
And I'll add on that I think there's a lot of people who maybe take the time to connect with, you know, customers, social marketers, whoever you're connecting with, you take the time to connect, but you forget to cast the vision. And the thing is, if we're not casting the vision, you just made a really nice little clique to hang out with and talk about things with. That clique is not moving you forward or moving them forward to get paid, right? So there's some of us who also have to wake up and think, you know, this Zoom time, this connection time, this chat, this is so fun, I feel so filled, but now where are you going? So you really do have to ask those questions, which is why if you take the right time to connect, which we heard about last night, Margie did such a great job on, if you take the time to connect, you're going to find out their why, and you need to keep reminding them that until they remember it themselves. Because a lot of people are getting stuck in that place of failure. So again, if we go back to that moment of failure, they're like, well, maybe I feel safe here, so I'll just stay here, and everybody likes me here. I'm in the chats, I come to the things, this is fun. They're like, but do you remember why? Why are you here? And you're like, oof, that kind of scares me. You're like, yeah, but we're doing it together. So you have to remember to push people forward with their vision. And that's where we do need to have strength. We absolutely do.
Yeah. And you know, this next part, Bethany's going to go on this part, but this is probably the most impactful thing in our life, is to help you guys understand that every single one of you has a seat at the table. And she'll kind of share this analogy because when we got married, I had actually built a very significant business and had the ranks and prestige, you could say, of building this thing. And so I'll just let her go into this, because the biggest thing we want is to let every single know that like you're valued, and like individually, like every single one of you have something that we need at the Modair table. And so I'll let her share the story.
Right. Each and every one of us have a gift. I think you guys have heard that if we only had eyes or we only had ears, we would be missing all the rest of the body. Those are all important pieces, but we literally do need every part of the body, and we bring that together. And so when Wayne and I got married in our prior company, I briefly shared when I was on the panel that I had been widowed by suicide, and I was doing the right things, thankfully, because I was pregnant, so I wanted to take care of that baby, that life that God gave me. And I thought, I have to take care of my body, which was a blessing, because I wouldn't have. And so through that process I did, but eventually the grieving process caught up with me. And then eventually I started to be like, I hate myself, I hate my life, my kids deserve better than me. But I was able to put on a mask, and I was able to put on a show in all the other atmospheres. Bethany's so fun, she's so kind, she's so encouraging, she's such a great teacher. She helped my kid go from a kindergarten reading level to 4th grade. Like, I was able to show up because I had a mask on and nobody really got to see inside what was going on. But I was exhausted, and exhaustion catches up with you in words like anxiety, depression, suicidal thoughts, and maybe it's other things for you, but for me, those were my feelings. And eventually I just had to have a clear wake-up call and be like, what am I doing with my life? It doesn't matter what degrees I have, it doesn't matter what other people think of me. What am I doing? Because I'm failing. I'm failing at being good to myself, good to my kids. And so when I had that wake-up call, I clearly told myself, which is such a testimony to these products that we have. It is a testimony because I told myself it takes 90 days to really reboot our body. 90 days. There's a theme with this. 90 days in your business, 90 days in your body, 90 days in your mental health. It takes 90 days. We have to break the cyclical habits that we have created. And so I told myself, Bethany, you're committing for 90 days to a health overhaul. So for 90 days, I showed up and I worked on just taking my products. I was doing what Brian was doing. I'm just taking my products. Eventually, I start feeling good. Eventually, I start running. I hate running. I start doing things that I don't want to do, and I want to do it. I start eating healthier. Well, guess what happens? My mindset's changing. I actually start to want to read. I start to get involved in listening to good things. So if I feel better, I think better, I make better choices. That became my habitual, you could call it mantra. I was like, this is all I have to help people with. If I help them feel better, they think better, and they make better choices. 90 days. So this is how I lived my life. And because of that, I got sucked into the business of this company because I just started sharing products because people are like, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm just taking these products. So I was accidentally doing the business and building ranks in this business. Well, that was the best kind of thing for me, and I think there's a lot of other people in the room who are natural salespeople because you share. That's all we're doing. We're not selling, we're sharing. And so because I was sharing, people started going, you should come to this, you should come to this. So I was learning more, but it didn't change my mindset. I didn't see ranks as making it. I saw making it as feeling good about yourself. I saw making it as being in the home and being present with my kids. That was making it. That was my hunger, and that was my hunger for the people that I was building the business with that I brought on. And so when Wayne and I ended up getting married, I came in with this like fresh, I hadn't even done the business for a year yet when we got married, because we got married in 3 months. It was quite a fun story. But anyways, you bring a lot of kids in there, you know, you're gonna marry or you're gonna not. And so we're like, let's just get married and we'll figure out how to work with the kids. But so anyways, we got married and I came in with this fresh mindset where Wayne's been like, Bethany, I help so many people and people are exhausting. Stop spending time with them. And I was like, no, I'm gonna help them find their why.
I was like, I already know how that person's gonna respond. And she's like, no, they're not.
So the point of this, it actually did transform our business that we had into something even greater, because it was, again, I was putting mortar into all these bricks that he already established. So I went back and built the relationships, and we had so much more strength in our business. But with that, thank you. with that, not everybody was happy. So here's the point I want to get to. There were some people who had built ranks, and they saw this girl come into this marriage. They're like, she doesn't know this. Who does she think she is? And some of them told it to my face. They're like, you have no right to speak here in this room. And I was like, well, I have ideas, and I'm going to share them. And so I learned how to not take judgment from others or how to not judge others, but I learned to be confident in who I was, back to that little kid I talked about, and not being afraid of failing, because it's always an opportunity for solutions to be brought up. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so I brought this to the table, and there's a full circle to this, where to this day, how we do our business, we have people who don't even know. They're like, I don't even know who's like where in our business. I'm like, that's great, because you shouldn't. Because this is a round table. We work together. I don't know everything. He doesn't know everything. We come together and we find solutions together. And so the cool circle to this story is that one of the main people who absolutely was beyond frustrated with me from our prior business, and who was doing Modere with us, she actually came to me just a few months ago and apologized. And she said, Bethany,
10 years later.
She said, I want you to know, I judged you so hard. And I remember thinking, who does this girl think she is? I worked so hard to get here. She does not deserve this, and she has no right to speak. But she said, Bethany, you just kept doing it. And she said, I just want to thank you, because you knew who you were, and I didn't understand that kind of freedom yet. So she said, thank you. So do not take other people's judgment. I want to share with you, you have a seat at the table. Your seat, your voice is valued, and that's what we want to really bring out in you. That's where leadership comes from.
Yeah, and it goes back, this is kind of what we'll wrap up with is, Bethany had this be, do, have mindset. And if you can tap into this, it will unlock so many things in your life. It's really the foundation is, most people, they think in reverse, so they're like, I want to have this. I want to achieve this. I want to, do these things and have all this stuff. But just like I talked last night is, professional athletes, you see it all the time, is they have the talent and then they get it all, but they've never actually been in the present state of like, how will I truly operate and live my life when I actually have all of those things? And so I think one of the most important things that you can do is, where do you want to be in the next 90 days? Or where do you want this business to take to you? Is to like literally think like, what would it be like if I was, an elite 3? I was making $20,000+ a month. Not just like I want to have that, but literally sit and marinate in that and go into a visualization where you're like, this is how I would handle this. This is how I would lead like this. And you can see a lot of other leaders that are already doing that to model it, where you can go, gosh, I can start to model things of that person. And I remember when I first started in my business, I remember I didn't even know some of this stuff, but I just was guided to it because I asked my main mentors, I said, like, how many people do their own team kickoff calls? And they said, oh, this one couple. And I was like, what's their rank? And they were making like 10 grand a month. And I was like, they're the only people on your team that do their own call. Everyone else just jumps on your stuff. And they were like, yeah. And I said, well, I'm gonna start doing my own team call. And they're like, well, there's only like 2 people on your team. And I said, I know, but I wanna be a $10,000 a month earner. So I'm gonna start doing the activities.
Good. Really good.
I'm gonna start walking in what a true leader, what someone that I'm gonna have hundreds of people on these calls. And if I don't start doing it now, if I have it and I have fast success, I won't know how to keep it and maintain it. Do you understand that? And so the question you really, you can take a photo of this is, what do you really want to be and really set and resonate in that? Like, how can Modere unlock this for you? And then what do you need to do, which is we're talking about, those are all the activities. Those are the things that we actually need to put our hand on the plow, that ugly 4-letter word, W-O-R-K. A lot of people are like, run, W-O-R-K. Yeah, it's called work. It really takes a lot of work. And then here's the thing, when you have it, it's like I said, it's almost like when you have it, some of the things that you thought you wanted, you're like, wow, I've moved beyond some of these superficial things that I thought I wanted. because I've already been in this space. And so we just want you to understand that you have a seat at the table. And Bethany's going to end on one more story, but one of the things is we're just big on identity. And this story, everyone knows the story of King Arthur. Yeah? Is everyone asleep? Because they're like, we're ready for lunch. Give us some Wi-Fi. But you know how King Arthur was the only one that could pull the sword from the stone, right? Remember that story? Go read it, King Arthur. But that's your purpose. That's your unique identity and your unique talent. And I always tell people that we need you to go pick up your sword, like your true self. Like pull your weapon that God gave you and bring it out and bring it to the world. And then bring it to the Modere round table and sit at the round table with us. Because we don't have you and your talents here in full. And that's what we need, is everyone to be seen and recognized and valued. And if we operate that as leaders, it's absolutely amazing.